Out of all 130 guests, you are so excited to talk about this. Who is Thomas?
I have ADHD, and I've just always learned to channel it, especially into things that I love, which is marketing, branding, and content creation.
I have Thomas Hajduk, an experienced marketer with over 10 years of experience in gaming, esports, working with content creators.
You'll never have all the answers. You'll never be perfect. The only thing you can be is yourself at the end of the day. If that's how you are, then why try to be someone that you're not? I've realized it's not about myself, it's about the people that are around me, the people that I do, and what I do. I was very selfish and focused on myself rather than what I know and what the people around me know. I had that very naive moment that I had it all figured out, and I did it. And I don't regret seeing my dad's face when I said, hey, in 9 days, I'm packing my bags and leaving, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Look at that dude.
The blonde hair, oh no!
I saw it. He says, oh no! Oh, no. You're cringing in your seat. Howdy, y'all, and welcome back to another episode on David's Saturday Night Sitback, a podcast where my guests and I tell personal stories with the hope that by the end of the episode, that internal fire in your gut feels like it's burning a little bit brighter. I'm grateful and happy that you're here because over 90% of my guests have never taken a guest spot on a podcast before, so I am building a collection of stories for you that can't be heard or watched anywhere else. With that being said, this morning, sitting back with me, I have Thomas Hajduk, an experienced marketer with over 10 years of experience in gaming, esports, working with content creators. Thomas helped spearhead the launch and growth of 3 multi-million companies for creators, Starforge Systems, Mad Mushroom, and Mythic Talent. He's developed top-to-bottom branding programs for various clients that support business strategies and activate customers and employees, including campaigns for companies you would definitely know, such as Lego Games, T-Mobile, AT&T, Chipotle, Paramount Plus, Razer, Amazon, Activision, Blizzard, and many more. Outside of that, you can find him snowboarding, longboarding. He picked up surfing sometime in the last couple years. He trained for an Ironman and even crushed his first marathon in San Antonio recently. Today, I'm really excited to sit back with Thomas to talk about his most recent and newest venture, founding Natura Pine, premium flavored toothpicks crafted with 100% natural birchwood, including 0 calories, 0 sugar, vegan, and keto friendly. Thomas, thank you for giving both me and the audience some of your time today. I'm really grateful to meet you in person, and welcome to your episode on David's Saturday Night Sitback.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited to be here, David. It's been a while since I've been on a physical podcast or talking to someone. It's always been like Zoom, and like it feels like an interview, or like for a job rather than an actual conversation, especially where there's like a little bit of lag and you get like the background.
Yes.
So the fact that it's like completely silent, we're locked in, we're able to talk, and it's just like, I'm not looking at a screen where I get distracted by a bunch of notifications and stuff. It's just like, boom, we're talking, and it's so much better. So I'm excited. Thank you again for inviting me.
Yeah, dude, and thanks for bringing us some donuts. The audience didn't see us chomping on those, but not a sponsor, but he brought us some donuts from the Salty, and they were delicious.
Yeah.
Do me a favor, bring your microphone just a little bit closer to you.
Yeah. Is this good?
Perfect.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, just to kick things off, we got to talk about the toothpicks, partly because I'm dying to try one, and I told you I wanted to react to them in real time once we start recording. So as I open these up and start playing with one, give us your sort of 1, 3, 5 minute, you can talk about it however you want. What are these and why are these?
Why? Oh, so Natura Pine, we offer premium flavored toothpicks as a way for people to combat their oral fixations. So that can be anything from chewing on your fingernails, having a bad habit such as smoking, nicotine, or vaping, right? Or using Zins, as a lot of people do. Now, out of, I guess, all of them, Zins are probably the least impactful directly on your lungs, but it can be an oral fixation that people have. So initially, I founded Natura Pine. I got it was overall really kind of like fun journey. I was able to before this start help found 4 different companies for different creators. So it was like I've done the venture so many times where it's like, hey, we have to make a company Thomas like lead the charge. It was so strange for it to be my own thing as like a change up rather than for someone else being on the client side where you're like, all right, you're interviewing the client and you're asking them questions on like everything, right? So it's kind of interesting. Like I was almost like tricking myself into doing it because I was like spending a little bit of time every single day for like almost 18 months. Now it's been 18 months since I've been worked on it. And I was just like, okay, well, I gotta come up with the name. I gotta come up with the logo. How is it gonna look? Where's it gonna be? All that stuff, and then all the fun business sides of research and demand of like, hey, how are we gonna build this product? Can I do it? Can it make sense? All that like boring business stuff. I like almost tricked myself in because I was just like thinking it was like as a fun research just to see where it can go, right? And then I tricked myself into getting an LLC because I hired my buddy and I was like, hey, Noah, can you just through your law firm, make me an LLC? And he's like, yeah, just pay me. And I like subconsciously, I was like, okay. And then I'm going to open up the Shopify. Okay. And then I'm going to make a pitch deck to see like, before long, I'm like, okay, I have a company and now I have to open up the bank account, which actually took me the longest period of time because I was just like, shoot, what do I do? I have to like open it up. Like actually, cause like all these like Shopify asks you for a bank account, all this stuff. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing it. Right. And where did it all stem from? Where I initially growing up had a really bad habit of chewing on my fingernails, and even to this day, every once in a while, I'll catch myself doing it as like a really bad habit. And when I moved to Dallas for my first like big boy job, essentially right out of college for marketing, our creative director Markel, he would have cinnamon and mint toothpicks that he would hand out after lunch to everyone, and everyone could try it or use it because like you're in Dallas, you get some barbecue, right?
Mm-hmm.
That stuff sits with you. You don't want barbecue taste, or
Yeah.
it's tasty when you're eating it, right? But afterwards, when you're sitting at your desk trying to do some emails or follow up, and you're just like, it doesn't taste great.
Yeah.
So you'd hand them out, and I got them for like a week, and I'm like, man, this is great. And then I looked at my fingernails, and was like, this is gonna be a little TMI, and I'm like, oh wait, I haven't chewed on my fingernails because I've been chewing through all these toothpicks. And so I found them as a great replacement of just like, it helped me just cut out my bad habit. And so, like I mentioned 18 months ago, I got my passion for starting something of my own got really reignited after I helped launch Mad Mushroom, which is a game publisher by OTK. So at OTK, I was their director of marketing and creative branding, and we were like an in-house agency that helped spearhead launching smaller companies and building out the branding fundamentals for all these other companies or subsidiaries that later got spun out. So, and then prior to there, I spent some time at a agency where our biggest client was Activision Blizzard, Paramount, and then we had a branding project with a really well-known content creator out here in Austin named Cypher PK. I think he has like 10 million subscribers on YouTube, plays Fortnite. Ali and Daniela, super nice guy. He wanted to build an apparel and clothing brand. So he came to our agency, and that was like my first dip into like building a brand for another creator. And so I did that, and then I was like I said, I went through that whole journey of like tricking myself into building this thing, and yeah, I was like, let's do it. I found a great provider, manufacturing partner, and we did a bunch of like back and forth tests with like how to build out the flavor profile for the mint, the cinnamon, the peach, and the watermelon, and we launched it. I always joke that it's the most anti-AI craze thing ever, because everyone's like AI this, AI that. Like a year ago, like you couldn't, everywhere you just saw it, just AI this, it was just so packed. And I pitched 75 investors of like different like groups or individuals, and out of all of them, I heard back from 3 people, and it's also 75 investors and potential content creators as well too, to really pitch them this project, because I knew that I needed to launch this brand with a content creator in order for it to be successful. Mostly because creators have this unique way, especially what I like to call explain and defend content creators, which is an archetype. There's 4 different archetypes of different creators for brands, that how they can approach working with a creator. So most podcasters, they're like explain and defend creators. That's why Andrew Huberman, if you're familiar with him, is an incredible brand ambassador for AG1, lifestyle, health, benefits, all this stuff. If he's telling you AG1 is good, no, I'm not endorsing AG1, but he says it's good, he vouches for it, the likelihood that you trust his word over Sabrina Carpenter saying AG1 is good is a lot higher, right?
Yeah.
And so I knew I needed to find and explain and defend content creator to help build this thing that can build and sway the trust of people. Because on paper, it's a flavored toothpick. Why the hell would I ever want a flavored toothpick, right? When I have gum, I have all these others, gum, mints,
fingernails,
plastic straw, like all these things. And I was super fortunate that I met my co-founder Bricky in this project, who was a longtime content creator for over a decade. He has over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, a bunch of followers on Twitch, and a bunch of other platforms. And I just shot him a cold DM. I'm like, hey, I know we met like 3 years ago at an event, and we've chit-chatted back and forth a little bit here or there, just topical stuff. Long shot. How do you feel about flavored toothpicks? Turns out he loves toothpicks. He's like a beaver. It's like growing up, he would go to restaurants, all this stuff, and he would just love the toothpicks, especially if they were minty. So I sent him some samples, and before long, he's like, I'm hooked. I'm in. What are the next steps? So yeah, after 74 rejections, or 73 rejections, sorry, from different, investors, potential creators, or just people just never responding, I got one, and that's really all I needed to just have that also additional momentum to carry it over into making the company. And yeah, here we are. We launched it. We did like a very slow rollout. We initially ordered 800 units to just have the ball rolling. We launched, I think it was April 28th or something like that. And within 2.5 weeks, we sold completely out, like 800 units gone. And I'm like, we need to order more.
800 of these.
Yeah, 800.
Nice.
And this is like very little marketing, very little promotion. I just used my internal resources and friends and family that I was just like, hey, I'm building this thing by, and I was blown away with the reception of just people in my industry or people that wanted to try it, and just how I was able to just position it. And I'm very grateful for our two like smaller creator partners, Egg and Jabroni Mike. This is like stage and creator name. He's awesome. He's really great. And them being able to convince our audiences that this is a great product. But they loved it too, which I think was the most exciting part for, handing this to someone, being like, hey, try, and they're like, hey, this is actually kind of nice, you know? So we sold 800 units. I was blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, we need to order more. And so we finally got our bigger order the other week, and we launched, and we've just cleared over 600 orders today, and cleared out, I don't even know how many units, but it's probably over 1,000 units in a very short period of time. So for like a month and a half, we were just like sitting with no inventory, and I'm like, we have to just wait for the inventory to show up. It's like we have a hit, but we don't have the product that people want. And I had people emailing me, when are you guys going to restock, all this stuff? And I'm like, this is weird. Like, some guys taking it from New Jersey. I think it's from New Jersey, right? It's like, I'm not trying to dox someone, but like, he's like emailing me. He's like, hey, when are you going to restock? I really want the mint more. And I'm like, soon, and I'm just like kind of counting on this like shipment to arrive so we can start sending them out. And yeah, as soon as we restock, I have this little Shopify ticker behind me so you can see how many orders. Just the entire day, dude. Just kept going. It's awesome.
Hell anyway, yeah, dude.
But that's like a very like sporadic story of how it came to be and how we launched it. And yeah, I didn't really want to do anything big fancy with our content creator partner Bricky on it. It's just like, hey, you're involved in this company. If you like it, check it out. And I think when creators make a big hoopla over launching a product and stuff like that, that's when it's like the biggest red flag of like, what's really in it for them? Are they getting paid to do it? Are they, what's like their actual package? Because like, for example, Prime is a big one. And then Unwell recently with Alex Cooper is a big brand CPG product. You're seeing it a lot where creator, big ambassador, or someone like is packaged with a brand and then is trying to ship it off to be its next big thing. Yeah. Okay, I'm done yapping. I feel bad. I've talked so much, and you're just staring at me, and I'm like, all right. I mean, either you're enjoying the toothpick or you're concerned.
I'm not concerned.
No, you're good.
I am enjoying the toothpick. I was writing down some notes. I was taking it all in. All right. First things first. Before I ask you some follow-up questions to that. Has anyone told you that similar to a Zyn, which is crazy because there's no nicotine in this, that when you first put it in your mouth and get the initial hit, you almost feel it like move up your face to your forehead?
Yeah, it's the natural mint extract that we use. And that's the little tingling that you get. Same thing from like mint Zyns that you get. It's the mint extract that hits that gives you that little sensation and tingle.
No wonder people are obsessed with this. If I'm ever stressed out at work or one of my favorite times to take a Zen is right after a meal. Even though it's not gum, there is something about eating, fish and rice and broccoli for lunch and then putting in a mint Zen where I feel like, okay, this feels like it's doing something good for my mouth right now, even though I know it's not really doing much.
No,
But
exactly.
it's the thought, right? Oftentimes I think it's it's just the taste of the mint where you're just like, all right, this feels better. I had my chocolate donut, now I had my mint toothpick. I feel a little bit cleaner. Yeah.
You just feel fresher. It's just kind of really. It's I guess the genius of these like mint. The leaves that people would usually have are like mint tea. That was really popular. Like in the 1800s, people would have some mint tea after a meal or something like that to kind of give them that fresh sense of oral hygiene. You want it, especially today when you're drinking, consuming so many different things, especially just our exposure to mint. We like it. It's why your toothpaste is minty.
Yeah.
It's just a popular thing.
I am an old man. I drink a cup of mint tea every night after dinner because I'm really trying to get my sleep schedule dialed. And so I try to cut off Zens between like 4 and 5 in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
I've been cutting off coffee by noon, so I'm backing everything up to be further and further away from nighttime. But after dinner, to your point, it does feel good to drink the mint tea after whatever you had, whether it was steak and potatoes or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, and honestly, the biggest thing that, like, shameless plug, obviously, for my brand, is what Natura Pine, the mint toothpicks have done for me is I have a really bad sweet tooth, like, terrible, like, ice cream, cookies, especially, like, at, like, 8, 9 p.m., which is a terrible time for you to be eating sugar and carbs, right? So you can feel it throughout when you sleep, especially once you get past the age of 25. And that's when it really kicks in, is, like, you get these sugar cravings and you just add unnecessary calories into your diet. So if you're trying to like cut, lose weight or anything like that, like curbing that appetite is so nice with something specifically with like gum. You can chew it, and I mean I chew on gum in the evenings, but like the toothpicks is like a little bit even different of a sensation because you can just easily take it out if you're having a conversation, you're watching a movie or something like that, and then it's so much easier if you want to sip on something rather than spit out gum that like loses its flavor, absorbs something else, all that stuff. So yeah, essentially, I also really love the peach after too. If I'm craving something like candy-ish, like it's just like
I'm gonna try that one in a little bit.
Yeah, it hits the spot.
All right, the second question I wanted to ask you is, as you were going through those 75 investors, what did you have any kind of expectations? Like as you were making these 75 pitches and you weren't hearing back from anyone, did you sort of know from talking to other people that this is sort of just how it goes? Was it causing you some angst? Were you like, why is no one interested in this? Like, what was sort of how long was that process? Was that like over a weekend? Was that over 6 months? And then as people were not reacting, how did you react to the lack of reaction?
Sure. I think it was, I want to say over 3 or 2 months where I was just like sending out cold emails, either getting a response for like a 20-minute, like, hey, I want to look at, let's talk for like 20 minutes or something like that, right? Or like, hey, this is really interesting. I'll pass it along to someone within our team and see if there's any interest in follow up with you after. So I got a lot of those where it's like, hey, we've received it. Interesting. I'll pass it off to either like a department or a sub person that's responsible for CPG companies, right? And I thought that given my background in pitch and just the business proposal that I put together, that I'd get a few more reactions. But I was honestly blown away with the fact that I got so little of like, yeah, we're interested. Here's where like, it's very like, no one teaches you what to expect from hearing back from people. I also was pitching in a pretty weird period of time because it was right before the election. People weren't really sure where the economy was going to go. I mean, M&A, just so people know, at the time of the recording is hotter than ever in terms of CPG brands. We had Touchland get acquired for over $800 million, Dr. Squatch by Unilever for over $1 billion. A few months ago, an Austin brand / San Antonio brand, Siete, was acquired by, I believe, PepsiCo for another $1 billion. And then recently, Ghost Energies, shout out to my buddies that work over there, they got acquired by Dr. Pepper's parent company, for over $1 billion. And there's like every few months you hear about a new CPG brand that's being acquired. Also, I believe it's Rode, Haley Bieber's cosmetic company that launched 3 years ago, acquired for over $1 billion. And I was like, man, I just decided to raise money or try to launch a company at the wrong time. Because if I had done it around this time, all the news, people would be more excited about CPG products. And the advantage these newer companies always have is that they can just they have just so many less corporate structure that you can just accelerate growth by cutting out all the middlemen decision makers that all these companies have to like be like, well, how will our shareholders react? How will our chairman react to this? Et cetera, stuff like that. So they can just zoom past that for accelerated growth over a period of time. But where I'm going back to this is people's reaction is it was just people were not really interested. And it kind of felt defeating after like I've typed out my 20th email because I try to customize these intros a little bit to these, representatives at these firms or these private equity or just investment companies of like, hey, I watch a little bit of like, see, do they have any content out there that I can strike a chord of like, hey, I saw your interview at A16Z about so-and-so. I happen to also be doing it, figured I'd reach out to you. Like, try to customize it so they're not getting like the same templated intro that someone's probably spitting out from ChatGPT, right? And it wasn't AI. I think that was like the real thing that kind of really bit me. And I think in 2 meetings I said, well, I don't really want to do any AI. The only thing that AI related should be in my company is something to help me manage my meetings, or record notes, essentially. Like, I'm very anti-AI art. I think it's just one of the worst things ever, where I think it helps in terms of concepting and visualizations, but it removes the human connection that we have with it. And that's why, especially like in the younger crowd that is like in the gaming space, especially in content creators, like there's such a big push for against AI art because it removes people from their jobs. And it's like, if a machine is spitting it out, what's the difference between, like, there's no like internal like feeling that you get out of it.
Yeah.
So like when I reached out to the artist to design it, I was like, I did like my whole background and make sure he didn't do any AI or anything like that. I tell everyone that we're always going to be paying humans to be designing stuff because that's what we're drawn to. Human things that are made by humans, and our toothpicks are also made by humans, but well, technically by a machine, but human made, and so where was I going with this in terms? So I think a lot of investors were not really happy. Where I literally the only time I mention in my pitch deck about AI is that I say we're not going to use AI at all in almost any capacity. Like if you need to come up with like a subject line for an email or like Grammarly to approve your email, sure, whatever, right? But like, I want our content later on in the future to be driven by people. Like, people want to watch people on TikTok. People want to watch AI slop or like AI generated content.
Slop.
Yeah,
I'm being such a good word.
And so I think what happened was I mentioned AI in way too many negative lights. I mean, it was like 2 or 3 lines where I'm like, we're not going to use AI. Like, was like my thing. And I think that scared a lot of potential investors maybe off. But also, I think it's just bad time to raise money.
Yeah.
Like it was like 6 months into the company where we tried to raise some money. And yeah, it was an interesting time. But all it took was the one yes, and that was all that helped build it out. And that was Bricky saying, "Let's do it. I'm in." And what are our next steps? And I was just like, okay, this is the next step, and we went from there.
I love that, man, because sometimes you don't need, or maybe you don't even want all 75 of them to say yes.
I was hoping not.
At the same time, good on you for persevering through that until you got the one yes that you needed and not letting it kick you to the curb too much. Yeah. On the subject of the art's pretty badass. So for the audience, if you're on YouTube, I'll snag a few pictures off the website and embed it into the podcast right now so you can sort of see some of the pictures. But like if you look at the Winter Mint one, for example, you got this badass looking falcon with no pupils in its eyeballs. Talons are out. He looks hella ready for war. There's icicles like flying out of the sky. How did you decide? And the other packages are sort of similar in the sense too that they got animals on them and whatnot. How did you come up with this packaging? Was this your idea or someone else?
Kind of. It was a combination. So growing up, I love skateboard art and snowboard art. I would skateboard, snowboard, all that stuff growing up. I'd read the Thrasher magazines. I'd buy Element skateboards and stuff like that. And I just was obsessed with skate culture and like snowboarding culture. I thought it was like rebellious enough, but it wasn't like, it was cool. And you had the likes of like Shaun White, you know, icons in the space that were making moves. And actually, Rob Dyrdek was a big inspiration because he had launched Fantasy Factory. It was like a revolution in TV. Like everyone would watch that. So it was a big part of my like ecosystem of everything that I was exposed to. And I loved the kind of like art that would come on skateboards. It was like a way to personify yourself, like extension of yourself of like, this is mine, right?
Yeah.
And then as well as like I dived into nerd culture, so Magic the Gathering, fantasy games, all that stuff like all stemmed into it. And League of Legends was another really big inspiration of mine. So I knew that people resonate. Like I could have gone down the traditional route, just put a mint leaf, you know, some called it winter mint, whatever, a mountain, you know, like coolers every others. But I'm like, that's not me. I want this to be something that I like and I know other people like. And going back to like, what do people like to look at? It's like things that are interesting. And if I put it next to a shelf of like Orbit, Altoids, like all these other mint brands, like how does it stand out? And I said, I went to HEB and I just stared at the section right before checkout. I probably looked like a crazy person to you know.
Just choose a flavor already.
Yeah, like pick.
Like, what's wrong with this guy?
Right? And what is it missing? It's just like, it's not interesting. It's just boring. It's the big text logo with a little line that says the flavoring with some colorful elements that could be associated with the flavor. So green and pink for watermelon, blue, you know, for mint, green like a light greenish for spearmint sometimes, and then like red for cinnamon. And it's just like, it's boring, you know? And so I'm like, okay, well, I want to make it interesting. So I found this awesome artist through my old job that had reached out to do a commission. Like there's like this art challenge that we were running through Starforge at the time for like a PC design case. And this artist submitted his art, and it wasn't even a top 5 finisher, maybe like top 10 finisher in the fan voting and stuff like that. And I was like, this is awesome. So I reached out to him, DM him, like, and it turns out this is a guy named Skellobite. I proudly display, like, this is another thing that I've been big on is like promoting artists that we work with. So on the website, if you go to it, you can see his a little art by Skellobite, which is, and then if you click on it, it directly links to his Instagram. Because company, like, I've always felt weird when people hide who the art is done by or who it's like commissioned by, because like it's so weird. Like, of course we own the IP and everything. We have like a contract agreement with him that all the stuff that he's done for us is owned by us, right? But I'm like, he made it. Like, he should get some recognition for it. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, I loved your art that you did for this thing. I'm working on a side project. Let me know if this would be interesting to you. And so I sent him some toothpicks. He loved it. So before he even like drew anything for us, I had him tried the sample products. I had some, I shipped it off to Mexico. He tried it. He's like, dude, this is great. You know? And I'm like, cool. What are you looking for in order to get this done? And we worked it out. I pitched him some concept ideas. I drafted a bunch of mood boards of like imagery that I was looking for. We went back and forth. And I think he made only, like, weirdly enough, we got it to the point where he only made 3 versions of that Ice Hawk, and we don't have a name for it or anything like that. Maybe in the future we'll expand upon it, give it some proper like labeling, you know. But it was just cool, and he drew 3 variations, and then within like 30 seconds I knew which one I wanted, and then we went from there. And then the next one was even easier because we had the base art concept and we extracted it. It's like, what if we made a fiery bear, right? And then Texas watermelon. I needed some of that UT Texas, you know, bull pride. So we're like, okay, let's make it a bull. Like, that's like a built from a watermelon. It's got like awesome details if you look at it. Like, you can see the little stripes that you see veins from a watermelon on it, and like the pink from the inside on the horns, right? It's like all gushing out. And then the crane for Japanese peach was a little bit hard, mostly because like Japanese peaches are like a delicacy, and we wanted everything to feel a little bit more premium too. So I thought cranes were like a good symbolicism of like like, I don't know, it just fit the kind of direction we were looking at. If attaching an animal or something anthropomorphic or something that people can be attached to for that flavor. And that's where we went, man. It was like, how do you feel and get connected? And my goal also is when someone takes one of the toothpicks is that they put it in their mouth and they look at the packaging and they get an entire experience visually and orally. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you build a sensation. It's and I realize I really love it for whenever I go to music festivals. A mint toothpick adds to your sensory of everything. So like, I enjoy EDM music a lot. love like a peach or like a watermelon. It just helps really lock you into the sensation. And I want you, when you look at the packaging, to be able to take away, like look away from your phone, look away from what you're doing, and just like feel something that in a Altoid will never do, Orbit gum will never do. And funny enough, it's all inspired by stupid Five Gum from back in the early 2000s, where it's like stimulate your senses or something like that. That was their motto, right? And they had that creative marketing where you saw, you know, the commercial, the guy getting slammed by the big fan or experiencing flames and stuff like that. I was like, that's what it, and that was a sensation. So it's just like, how do we bring that back? And I really want to lean into that in the future for all our marketing once we get good cash flows. Like, go the liquid death route of like, I hate saying this. I know one day this will get clipped out of context and someone will be like, oh yeah, they wanted to go the liquid death route. It's like, yeah, because it's different, it's fun, and it's enjoyable, and like that's what it should all be about.
Yeah.
You know, and the product hopefully speaks for itself.
So I have to ask you something.
Yeah.
First off, I will say part of the reason I do the podcast in person is for the same reason that I forget if we were on mic or off, or yeah, it was right, your intro. Yeah. But when you come over here, I have actually thought through the fact that when we see each other, we were both carrying stuff. I think I forgot to shake your hand now that I'm thinking back on it. I'm sorry. But usually I give people a hug or I shake their hand. Yeah. So now we've touched. You come in, you can see me, you can see the studio. The candles are lit, so your nose is getting activated. I offer you a drink, and so your taste is getting activated. And I do wonder, by just the fact that every single one of our five senses is being activated, if that helps the guests on the show become that much more excited and invested to do a good job. Whereas over Zoom, what senses are getting activated? Really just sight, and even that, it's still through a screen. We don't get to do the handshake. Maybe you brought your own beverage, but that's not the same as me offering you one or you bringing me some donuts. You don't get to meet Thad. You're not sitting in a studio. Like, so I love that you touch on that of like, that's genius, man. Is how can we activate as many senses as we can, not just through the taste of the product, but through the look of the package, and just, you really thought this through quite well.
Yeah. It's weird because I don't think I've, other than maybe to breaking into our other two partners in the project, which are just Evan and Noah, who, by the way, are like huge shout outs to those two guys. Evan's the guy that helped put all the packaging together. He's a 20-year vet of a designer that I met through my old agency. That like the people that put around myself to do this was like really that helped me like get it to where it is right now, and hopefully they'll be there with me in the future. But like you said, it's like, how do you like build this experience with, you know, every small thing?
Yeah.
And I was telling you earlier when I was at South by Southwest before we launched, and I was just pitching it to creators there too, because there was a few mixers, and I had opened up my icebreakers with, hey, would you like to try a mint toothpick? You know, and they would just like, similar to you, they'd be like, oh, this is like interesting, you know, and it was like a launch point talking point. And actually, that's one of the people that I pitched to you, James, that also I recommended you reaching out to him. He does a bunch of podcasts where he interviews a lot of interesting people, but I met him here in Austin as well. So yeah, it's big. I mean, don't you want to experience things in your products that give you a more elevated experience? And I know we were talking about the Zoom thing, man. That's why I've said no to 3 different interviews opportunities after launch from different people saying, oh, can I talk to you about it over Zoom? I was like, nah, not really. Like, it's just not the same experience, you know. And you just have like a bad camera. You see, like, it's like, it feels like I was telling you, it feels like an interview for a job. And I was like, I don't want to do job interviews.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. All right. Then my next follow-up question for you is, as we were talking about, you're probably interview number like 132 or something like that.
Hey, and congrats, by the way. That's huge.
Thank you.
You pushed through. Complete side note. I know so many people that say, I want to start a podcast. I want to create content. My big background, like you touched upon, is I've been working with creators for 10 years. And every single time that I've talked to someone that wants to start creating, the biggest issue is they get tired, they give up after a few like rounds of a piece of content, whether it's a few TikToks, a few YouTube videos, a few live streams for all our streaming people that are listening to like live streamers and Twitch streamers and Kick streamers, whatever you want to call it. They just give up. And it's like, if you give up, then you're never going to craft your talent to get to the point where you can make it a reality. So big props to you that you pushed through that big number, especially 100. You know, I think that's a big achievement. You should be proud of yourself, because it's also like, not to glaze you here, but it's like it's hard to put yourself out there without like a big fundamental background or presence or like a fancy title or name or experience or anything
I
like
think
that.
that's the hardest part. If
Yeah.
you're someone like me, in the sense that like you're pretty average Joe, that first 6 months is so hard because nobody cares, especially in podcast land. Just on the site that I publish through, and they have a lot of competitors, I think they have somewhere between 2 and 3 million podcasts live right now. And they define a live podcast as posting at least one episode per 30 days. So that's a lot of shows, and that's just one website. So if they have 3 or 4 competitors, that's somewhere between 10 and 12 million podcasts posting at least one episode per month. So you have a lot of fucking noise to push through.
Oh yeah.
So
It's hard.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people give up whenever they see like low numbers. And I think that's one of the reasons that I was really inspired to come onto yours, because I was like, sure, views are something and it's a reflection of like the content, but I don't think that paints the bigger story. People sometimes forget that like a 20 views on a video, that's a pretty full room. If you're ever like in a living room and you see 20 people watch your piece of content, that's quite a bit.
Yeah.
300 views, that's a sizable audience, like
Yeah.
an auditorium, like you could fill it up, or small theater. A 5,000 views, that's like a small theater, and 30,000 views, that's a small stadium. Like people really forget that. Like I might be wrong on this, but I think Austin FC Stadium holds like a little bit over 25,000 seats or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So if you get 30,000 views on a video, you're filling up a soccer stadium,
Right.
which in comparison, anyone would die to come onto a podcast with their like that fills up a soccer stadium.
Yeah.
Right. So no, again, it's like it's cool that you're doing it, you enjoy it, and like whatever comes out of it comes out of it. You're probably also gaining a lot of useful like skills of like speaking, talking to people, all that stuff. Because you do talent acquisition, or do you talk about your job a lot on the podcast at all?
I try not to.
You try not to, or do you like to avoid it, or just?
It's not a secret or anything. Obviously, anyone can find my LinkedIn profile. It's more so I talk about that 40 hours a week, and the podcast is really. I've never wanted to use this as a platform to come recruit or come also look for a job at the firm that I work for.
Yeah.
Because one, we don't need to. It's a global firm and lots of people want to work there, and they've done a great job at building their brand reputation over the last 100 years. So they don't need that. And this is my thing. This is David's podcast. It's not David's side hustle to try to build up, influence with his superiors at work or anything like that. They're two completely wildly different things. One is to bring in money so I can do the things I love, and then the podcast is the thing I love.
No, that's awesome to hear, because I think so many people they're immediately like, if I'm doing a piece of content, it has to be because I can get something out of it like afterwards. But when you're doing it because you love it, that's when it's like the best thing, because the views and stuff just don't really impact you, or just you're enjoying the process and the journey of it, not the end result of it. So
And you get free toothpicks.
and you get free toothpicks and products. There you go.
Oh, so the question I wanted to ask you, the reason I brought it up is because everyone that comes on here generally is talking about something they love. So whether it's promoting a product or another example that I was thinking about while you were talking this morning is like I had a pro rock climber on. So even though she had nothing to sell, she came on to talk about this thing that she's been doing since 4 years old. She's won competition. Her name is known like globally in the rock climbing culture. Didn't know there was one. But out of all 130 guests, you are so excited to talk about this. What, dude, are you just over caffeinated, or like, who is Thomas and how does he harness this much energy to bring to the table with him this morning?
Oh, I want to thank my parents for never letting me touch Adderall growing up, because I definitely have ADHD. Long story is like, of course, like most kids in the early 2000s diagnosed and all that, and they're like, nah, let's not destroy your liver with, or become, and I felt like a zombie too. So it never felt good taking Adderall, or the few times that I have, right?
So you were diagnosed by a doctor
Yeah, I was
with
diagnosed
ADHD.
to have ADHD, and I've just always learned to channel it, especially into things that I love, which is marketing, branding, and content creation. Like, I was a content creator before, when I was like 8, essentially, because YouTube came out, and me and my brother were obsessed about making little silly home videos, and it was just fun, just like you're inspired by other creators and what else is happening, and you can do it. And then I got a little bit of a launch at the start of Vine, where I created League of Legends content on Vine, and I built up a small following. Was official like content creator partner for League of Legends. Like I back when Twitter had lists that you could like create lists. I was officially added to like a thing. I went out to an event at Madison Square Garden that they had. They had like over 40,000 people show up for an esports event. Met with a bunch of other content creators. It was like a cool entire thing. Of course, Vine unfortunately died, and I had this moment where I was like, okay, I can either go and continue into content creation as a venture, or I can go into the business side and learn all that stuff. And I chose that route because I think I just was able to connect so much better as a person to creators, but also people about content, that I knew that in the future, as social media marketing, content, YouTube, and all that stuff kept evolving, that there's going to be a need for those people to be able to be the middleman between a creator and a brand, or what we call suits, or the creators call suits. It's like the CEOs or like, executives, like, and those people. And if you can communicate both ways, this is like whenever I've pitched myself in like interviews, is like I can talk to a content creator like a creator wants to talk to me, like as a friend, or like I can connect with them on that level. I can speak their language. I can talk about the topical things that happen in their daily stuff, or they know about, or the struggles, right? And then I can go to an executive CMO and be like, let me lay it out everything strategically in a more traditional fashion that you would understand, and being able to communicate that back and forth. So I just love it, man. It's just so fun. And it's like content is ever changing. It's there's always something new, and my favorite thing about marketing in the space and branding in the space is that you never stop learning, and you have to keep absorbing. So I can channel that ADD energy of like, all right, what's next? Boom, 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 and channel it into things that I enjoy. And it sucks because, not to route back to school, but like I was so bored in high school. Like I was just bored of like just things that were so routine. You're learning the same things. You're learning, it's like textbook. And it wasn't until college where I was like, finally, like newer things like social media marketing, analyzing, business strategy, like all this stuff really fired off. And when I first got into my first job, I was just like, whoa, I'm like excited and passionate about what I genuinely am doing, that it kept pushing me to always want to learn more, do more. How can I picked up Photoshop and, design some stuff. So some of the stuff that you see Natura Pine, for example, put out on social media, I just fiddled around enough with Photoshop to put it out, right? And it's like, you just enjoy it, and then it doesn't feel like work, where I look at the clock and it's like 3 p.m. I'm like, fuck, I didn't even eat lunch. I just have been powering through stuff, and I just enjoy talking to people about it because, I don't know, I just enjoy it. There's nothing other than that to it. It's like cinema, I guess, for other people, you know, or like music.
One thing you said that was just interesting, that I wanted to ask, just knowing too that a lot of the audience from the show is younger folks, is I see grown adults get super nervous when I facilitate an interview for them to go meet someone with a title like a partner, a director, a senior manager. And you just mentioned that, you've had probably multiple conversations with different C-level executives. Do you do anything to prepare for those, or are you just so passionate about what you talk about that talking to another person, regardless of their title, doesn't really sway you at all? It's like, well, this person is a C-level executive, so I'm just going to change how I speak a little bit, whereas this person is an investor, so maybe I'll change it a little bit for them. Sure. But how did you to ask the question directly, did you do anything to develop that executive presence, or does it just sort of come naturally through your passion?
Man, I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question. I think maybe subconsciously, I just know I'm confident in myself, that I can be myself, and that just when I'm myself, people get that. Like, I don't have to put on some like fake persona to like trick myself to be like talking to the CMO of Chipotle, or like my ideas being ran by him in order for a project, right? I'm just like, it's my idea. He's gonna like it or not, whether how I phrase it, or or like, hey, this director from Lego Games EU is going to see your branding project and your marketing presentation / deck for 2022, right? I was just like, all right, I'm going to do what I think is best off the top of my head and what I conceptually know, and that's it. Like, I'll get the feedback if they have any, and I'll learn. Like, I don't know, you'll never have all the answers. You'll never be perfect. The only thing you can be is yourself at the end of the day. If that's how you are, then why try to be someone that you're not? Especially in business. Like,
Yeah.
what the heck, you know?
It's funny because I have this line that I send out at the end of an email, specifically in an interview invitation, and it's at the very bottom of the email, and it reads something like, remember, whenever you step into any interview with another human being, your silver bullet that you might not think you have is to just be yourself. And if you do that, you'll knock it out of the park. Because even if you show up and you be yourself and they're not interested, to your point, that just gets that rejection out of the way that much quicker so you can move on to whoever the yes is going to be.
There you go. And that's how I went around with the investors as well. Whereas, like, I knew that if someone that was, like, very, like, uptight about, be like, oh, man, you're going to need to have, like, 80% profit margin on this. You're going to have to spend this money on this. And we're going to have this, you know, buzzword in. And I'm like, if there's going to be too many barriers, I don't care how much money you fucking give me. I'm not going to take it because I'm going to put barriers to do something that it's not me.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Another question I wanted to ask you, thinking of your own education experience, going from the high school and the repetition to college and really just finding your niche. Let's say you were put in charge of the middle and high school education system of America.
oh, geez, that's another question.
I know. We could rephrase it a little bit if you want, but
No,
just in hindsight, maybe to ask in a little bit less of a loaded way, in looking back on it, would you have done anything differently in high school? Like,
In high school?
not you as a student,
Sure.
but like, did you see something where maybe for kids who have ADHD, maybe this traditional system doesn't work for them? Maybe we need to, instead of having them do the 7 main courses of, you know, English, math, history, and the other ones that we go through just like I did, and most kids do you think it would be better to tweak it on a student by student basis, or is that just impossible because there are so many students and it's too large of a system to cater it to be effective?
Yeah, I think you kind of answered it a little bit. It's really
Yeah.
really hard, right? But I think that's where it allows, like, there's a moment it's kind of like the baby bird getting pushed out of the nest. You have to push the person to just do their own thing. And, like, as long as they can make a good living or set themselves up for a good future, like, hypothetically, that's, like, the best you can do. And, like, everything else is, like, it's up to them to make it. So if I had to change anything, I would just introduce more fun classes, like, which is hard because then you need to justify the dollar spend per professor or teacher, the resources that go into that. I quickly found out I took a website coding class, and I very quickly realized that I'm like, this is not my alley. I cannot do this right at all. But I took a creative branding class that was just like, we're gonna make some graphic design stuff, and I fucking loved it. I was like, this is awesome. And it's like, I just twiddled around. I had some arbitrary, like, projects I had to make. All this, I got to design a T-shirt, which was awesome. You get to print it. I remember I made it for my brother because it was just a cat that says, like, I'm always angry, because my brother would have a pouty face sometimes in photos. Like, that was the thing. And I was just like, this is cool. Like, you get to create something of your own. And that really kind of, like, I think kickstarted. It wasn't like art design or anything like that. It was just like graphic design, which was, I mean, it plays a role in everything I do today, but it's not like exactly what I do. So it's like, yes, we should introduce more, like, I won't call it fun, but, like, broaden things. But there are those fundamentals that are really important for us to have in order to just grow as individuals and have that fundamentals. Because I feel like when you can learn to learn, this is the big thing I would switch in high school. Teach kids how to learn, to enjoy learning, not be penalized for learning. What I mean by that is when you transitioned from working at a gym to now what you do, right? And then I didn't know you did some accounting stuff, right? Between then, you learned things that a course doesn't teach you, an individual teach you. You just learned by experiencing. And when you get that enjoyment of that, oh, I get it. Like, no one had to teach me. I learned it myself, right? That dopamine rush is so satisfying. You almost become addicted to it. Just like when you PR at a gym or you see some results or anything like that, you discover something about yourself. That is such an addictive process, and I think that what drives a lot of, like, founders, creatives, or people that are just very driven by what they love. that addiction to that kind of self-dopamine of improvement. So if we can teach kids and give them that opportunity to reach that, even if it's just them discovering small things, it could change the way we especially in our school systems that often feel very like boxed up and like packaged, that it's like, okay, high school, you got to learn the 7 different subjects. Then you're off to college where you have to pick a specific deviation of a broader field, and then like that field might not be here in a few years. It's just like, man, boxing people so much up. It's just like, where's the fun of learning? And I think a lot of people like to learn in their own way, which is weird. It's a cop-out answer, but I think if we present people with more of those opportunities, that's the biggest thing that can change learning. I think people just have a bad mental tie-in with the like education and learning as a chore rather than something exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first off, I don't know how much research you did before I came on here, but thank you for what you did do. You knew how many episodes we were at. You clearly looked at my LinkedIn. And one thing that's interesting about what you just brought up is I did stay in health and fitness for 11 years because it kept changing and because I loved every time it changed. So when I promoted up from a personal trainer to a manager, I had to review my first set of financial statements. I didn't even know what a balance sheet was. I didn't know what a statement of cash flows was. But all of a sudden, I'm in charge of the facility, and I have to go give a presentation once a quarter to a group of vice presidents and investors to talk about the health of the gym, why certain things revenues are climbing, why certain ones are dropping. I gained so much, not just knowledge, but to building your own executive presence. Having just to do that, to be like, all right, as part of this job of running your own gym, you got to make these quarterly presentations. Good luck. Here's sort of what we expect, but you got to analyze the numbers. You got to speak to the numbers. If your guys' revenues dropped with personal training, you have to have some sort of reason as to why and what you're going to do to fix it. And then I pivoted to accounting, hated it. That's why that was a very small blip on there. And then I got into recruiting and been doing that for 7 years because I just found the next thing that I love now that I've outgrown the health and fitness space. With health and fitness, I tell everyone, you don't get into it for the money, you get into it because you love it. If you don't love it, you'll hate it because it doesn't pay shit. Yeah, and there's some top people, but for the most part, those are not well-paying jobs.
Yeah, so you figured out that you enjoy having conversations and talking to people rather than looking at spreadsheets and numbers, which is fine. That's great. I think there's some people. My brother is an accountant. He loves that stuff. He likes to just be like, boop, look at this stuff, be like, money here, there. I don't know everything else that he does, and he loves it. I could never do that. Too much.
No, I don't think you could either.
Yeah,
not based off what I know about you. I have a question. How old are you right now?
29.
You're 29. Okay, so I have a picture of you from when you were probably about 21, give or take. This is probably the very first picture on your Instagram account.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Look at that dude.
The blonde hair. Oh no.
I saw it. He says, "Oh no." Oh, no. You're cringing in your seat like you hate that I just brought this out. What goes through your head when you see this version of Thomas?
Oh my god, I couldn't grow facial hair. It pains me. What goes through it? A very naive young person that thinks that they know a lot about the world, but no, they don't.
How'd you found out you didn't know as much about the world as you thought you did?
That's a great question. When you realize that kind of just everything, you think you have things figured out. And I mean, I don't even have things figured out. It's just there's always things that are going to be coming in that are out of your control, that once you're like let go of these like artificial guardrails of like school, your parents, but not everyone even has that, where some people are just chucked it. Oh, you don't have to repackage. You can just keep the tin. That's like the packaging to keep it just fresher a little bit, because the tins. I literally got our manufacturer to send me a photo of our new packaging for the tins, where it's like a nice seal wrapper. It's like gonna close it, and it's gonna keep the freshness a lot longer. If people do order it online, it comes already pre-sealed. I just keep it like that, just because those are my sample packs that are.
Not to completely derail your answer, but this is delicious.
Right?
This is so good.
It's so good.
Oh my god! How did you do that? That is the best tasting toothpick I've ever had.
There you go. Listen, the simple answer is just candy sweetener on a toothpick. It's not rocket science. There you go. But yeah, man, what was the original question? I forgot. It was something about what were we talking about?
I completely got derailed from the
No,
new toothpick
no, you're good.
flavor. What did I ask you?
That's a great question. I know.
Oh, I showed you the picture, and then
Oh,
you said,
yeah,
I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
I knew a lot about the world, and I
Oh,
said,
yeah,
how'd
yeah.
you find out you were actually quite
Oh,
not as knowledgeable?
no, for sure. Because
Yeah.
I started. That was around the period of time where I was wrapping up my I was wrapping up my junior year in college, and I was transitioning to my senior year, and that's when you start, looking for internships, trying to figure out all that space, and man, the preparation that you have when I entered the field, marketing and branding in social media in a very strange field, time where it was there's so much shift that no one really knew where it was gonna go, and I didn't. I thought I had an idea of where everything was going, but then you're introduced with company structure of layers, right? Reporting, roles, responsibilities, and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I thought companies worked like XYZ, like you see in movies, you
Mhm.
know? And I think I was so shaped by media that my perception of what reality is was so much more different. And then, like, I don't know. I thought I had, like, I always was cocky enough where I thought, like, oh, I could be, like, a director or manager like within a few years, and then I realized the skills that it takes, and it's not just what you know, it's who you know. And I think as I've grown from that photo, I've realized it's not about myself, it's about the people that are around me and people that I do and what I do, more than just who I like think I can, like what my core skill set is essentially. Like I was very selfish and focused on myself rather than what I know and what the people around me know and what I'm building or people are what I'm doing. When I mean I'm building, I was like, what role do I have in a company? What role do I have in it with my partner, right, or girlfriend right now, right? What role do I have with my friends, you know? And I think you have these like, it's like, it's you have this moment where just like not the glasses come off, but like the is it rose tinted glasses? I don't know what the analogy
Yes,
is.
that's the one.
Right? It's like it comes off and you're like faced with the reality where you're like you have to pay rent. And no one's gonna hold your hand of like, hey, if you don't pay rent, you're gonna get evicted, or hey, if you're not paying your credit card, it's like that kind of reality of what life is actually like really sunk in a little bit right after that, and
Hmm.
that's where I told my parents that I was moving to Texas 9 days before my flight.
So you bought the ticket before you told them. And where were you at the time? Chicago?
Yeah, I was finishing up. It was the end of my first semester in not college of my senior year. So it was the the fall semester, and it was December, and I told them, hey, I got a job offer. For Opti Gaming at the time, which is like it was like a huge esports company with like 3+ million followers on like Twitter alone, huge following. They raised a bunch of money. They were looking for a marketing specialist, and I crushed the interview. They want me out there by December. So I was born to two immigrant parents, both of them Polish. They met in Chicago. And if you have immigrant parents from anywhere in the U.S., like the big thing is getting a college education. Like that's like a big milestone for anyone, especially from like Eastern Europe, Asia and stuff like that. It's a big accomplishment, you know. And so I had a choice. I was like, do I go to school? Like, do I finish my degree or do I take this job that's like at an awesome like I loved esports and gaming and content creation. It's like this is like a the a pillar in that industry, right? They raised a bunch of capital. They had money from the guys that what is it? They own the Texas Rangers, right? It's like genuinely like legit business. So yeah, I had that very naive moment that I had it all figured out, and I did it, and I don't regret seeing my dad's face when I said, "Hey, in 9 days, I'm packing my bags and leaving, and there's nothing you can do to stop me."
Now, being that they sort of already had the mentality of immigrating from one place to another,
Yeah.
were they pretty supportive of it?
Oh
And maybe
yeah.
they just would have liked a little more leeway to say goodbye
I think
or
they
see you later, I guess would be
yeah
the more appropriate.
I think they just expected like that I was gonna finish school, internship or something like summer internship that was going to lead into a job. And I was just like, no, I'm skipping all that. I'm going right into it. Now, I did finish my degree. I had an awesome dean at Lewis University that basically vouched for me. He's like, hey, we're going to change your entire senior second semester curriculum. It's going to be 18 credit hours, but you can graduate on time, all online. We're going to loosely bend some rules here, but you know, you've been a great student. Like all the other professors really liked you. If you do this, we will get you basically like the diploma. And I was like, cool. So my first 6 months in Texas were hell because I did 18 credit hours. Whew. On top of 40 hours a week in a new state, new city, new company, new nobody. And that's what I mean when I was so naive of like, I didn't know what was ahead of me, but also I didn't know, I was so selfish in myself that I like didn't experience like everything else. And so, yeah, that was like a very catalytic moment. So it's funny that you brought up that picture because it was like, that was, I think, taken like, I'll say like September or August, like very like almost fallish. And then later that December just,
gone.
Yeah, everything else flipped around.
Do you know why your parents moved here from Poland?
Yeah, better job opportunity, better life.
What were they what was not over there? That was it lack of jobs that would pay them well, or
yeah, like you just come here for a better life. Like it's like it I think it hurts so much when I hear when people are like they don't understand why people like immigrate here and they work really hard to get a visa or to get a like citizenship here. Like it's a lot. Like your life, your opportunity for a job, like if you're, you know, coming from like, let's say even like France or like Germany, trying to get a job here, it's so hard. So hard. You can be top of your class in like engineering. And even then, dude, you're going to go up against people coming from MIT, Harvard, right? For just engineering alone, right? Or even mathematics, you know, stuff like that. Even in creative marketing. Like if you go to Stanford Business School, the advantage you have over someone that graduated from a university in Spain, or let alone like or from like Korea, even from one of those tops, it's just like it's insane. So the job opportunity, just the life that you can have here is just incrementally better. So I've never understood people that like are confused by immigration or why people want to come here. It's because it's genuinely better to live a regular life here than anywhere else. And I'm always grateful for my parents for doing that because it's not the easiest thing to do is to pack up your bags. I think my dad was 22 at the time. So I kind of mirrored him a little bit. And I think that's where he gave me a little bit of slack because he chose to go across the ocean to a new country. I just chose to go across the country. But it shows you can do it. And if you just put your head into it and you kind of trust yourself that you can do it, you'll get there. But yeah, so that's what, you know, it is.
What do your parents do now?
So my dad is a computer engineer / electrical engineer. So he does a bunch of like technical stuff. He's like more senior. So he does like back end coding with like smaller developers. And my dad, not my dad. And my mom, she's in a special needs elementary school teacher.
Did your parents, did they sort of trust you to drive your own career? Or did they try to, there's a lot of trust there on their part.
My mom, ever since I was little, she always would say, we'll support you with whatever you choose to do. Even if you're a garbage man, you better, but the only speculation is you need to try to be the best you can be always. She's like, even if you're a garbage man, try to always be the best garbage man. So when I was a lifeguard, I always tried to be the best lifeguard that I was. When I was in after school daycare camp counselor, you know, after school, some parents would work late. I would hang out with them and we'd do stuff basically like, you know, arts and crafts, games and stuff like that. At our local YMCA, I always made sure to be the best because for a brief period of time, my first 2 years in college, I wanted to be an elementary school teacher, and then I realized my passion would not have been that. I'm not as enthusiastic. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like everything. But yeah, my mom I think was a big catalyst for that. Of like, we'll support you whatever you do. You just need to always do your best at the end of the day, no matter what. And I think that's always stuck with me.
How close are you and your brother in age?
A year and a half apart.
So is he older or younger?
Younger.
Any other siblings?
No, just us two.
What was growing up in a Polish home like in America?
Strange, kind of. I don't know. You don't get treated differently because I mean, you look like every other American. But there's like cultural things like, you know, growing up we speak Polish in our house, and then as we got through high school, it slowly was like a blend of English Polish. So, you know, like it's like mixture, you know. there wasn't anything too crazy. You just kind of grew up in an environment that was a little bit different than your American friends. You know, we weren't really into like traditional sports. Like we didn't watch football or watch hockey, or you know, it was just more like soccer and volleyball because that's what more Polish people like. You know, um, you you follow Polish athletes or musicians or people more. Like you just were naturally drawn more attention to them and their successes than American ones. Like I mean, I looked at Tom Brady. I was like, dude, that guy's cool. Like he's crushing it, right? Michael Jordan, early in the '90s, like growing up, you know, or early 2000s, right? And then like, but for me, it was more so like always push. It would always come back to Polish people. You know, seeing those people. That's why I'm like very proud. Always on my websites, like I'm a Polish founder. Like I claim that as like a big success because, you know, I can see other people that are Polish in our industry or perpendicular to our industry that I later on am inspired by. Like, oh, I can talk to these people because they know what it's like to a degree. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was anything crazy other than you just spoke a different language, which was always really cool that you can flex. And whenever you met a Polish person, it was just like, hey, jak się masz, you know? It was like a lot easier.
Growing up were you in Chicago?
Or like suburbs.
Okay, so you're in the suburbs of Chicago. You know that you're Polish, living in America. How old were you when you found out you had ADHD?
I think it was like 4th or 3rd grade.
So you were pretty young.
Yeah. It was like pretty obvious. Like I was like looking around the classroom more than the teacher, because you went to school like in the United States, right? So
yeah.
I don't know how it was in Sacramento, right?
Uh-huh.
Like
you are good.
Yeah. I remember stuff. I did my homework. It's like the classrooms are so stimulating because they have all these posters, science stuff, and I remember specifically around 3rd grade, I was like, dude, I cannot pay attention to especially anything to do with spelling or reading. It's because I see these art things, these posters, history, like, and I just like, fuck, I just want to read that more and learn more about that more than anything else. And I think that as well as just being not good at paying attention, and that was like a catalyst. They're like, hey, Thomas can't pay attention. And I'm like, whoa, I'm sorry.
Whoa. Did you feel in middle school or any time in grade school, did you feel like you were sort of this other thing, or did you feel like you did a pretty good job at assimilating to the people around you?
Yeah, I had my own like group, I'd say. I wasn't like, I just knew the people I wanted to be around. And I think that's where I've always been comfortable with, just being myself. Like, strangely, I've never tried to be someone that I'm not. Like, I like skateboarding. I hang out with people who like to skateboard. I like to play soccer. I hang out with people that, you know, play soccer. You know, there are 2 Polish kids in, like, for example, middle school that I would just talk to because we're Polish, you know? It's just like an easier thing. And, you know, you just found similar interests just like anything. And you just spend time with people that are in that space or in that. And if that's been the same way ever since.
Do you feel like your parents were sort of unapologetically themselves? Because I feel like you had to pick that. There must have been someone in your life, maybe not, who was almost doing that themselves, and maybe on a subconscious level you sort of, maybe even someone in your class like a couple grades older than you, where you're like, man, that David dude is just like, he does not give a fuck. If he wants to go skateboarding, he goes and skateboards. That's cool. Do you think you picked that up from anyone that comes to mind? Or
I really can't think of anyone. I mean, my parents are just themselves too. I don't think they didn't really have a really difficult time assimilating to U.S. culture, more so because like Polish / like European culture, American culture, it's like similar enough where it's not that strange, right? If you were to spend like 6 months living in the UK, France, Germany, like you'd get along pretty easily. Though if you switched around and you went to like Japan, China, Dubai, or some like other more you know, culturally different country, you would have a little bit more of a trickier time, no matter what.
Yeah.
Right? Mostly because also so many immigrants, and then Chicago was just such a hub spot for European immigrants, Polish immigrants. I think there's like 2.3 million Polish people in Chicago or in the Chicagoland.
Wow.
There's a huge amount of us. Like I went to Polish school on Saturdays, so that's another big thing that was like weird for me as a kid. Is on Saturdays, instead of like going to sports stuff, I'd go to Polish school to learn Polish and stuff like that, like on a regular basis, all the way through high school. But yeah, I mean, I just got along with people that I like. I think one person that really now have grown an even greater appreciation for, and hopefully I can meet him one day, is Rob Dyrdek from Fantasy Factory. He I believe I'm gonna probably butcher some of this stuff, so apologies. Is he launched Fantasy Factory as like a show, and he became such an instrumental entrepreneur and businessman that he was unapologetically himself always. How he showed up in meetings, how he talked to people, how he would act on camera, and he was like almost like a YouTuber slash content creator, but with on mainstream TV, and that was like. He was just always himself. He didn't care what other people thought because he was confident in himself at the end of the day. And I think that was like a big person that indirectly has shown me that, but also just so many YouTubers and content creators that I saw build businesses, be themselves on camera. And that's all that they wanted to be is themselves. And they would put that out there, people would watch, and people would relate to that. I don't know. I was raised by the internet more so than traditional TV, to a degree, other than like MTV, Cartoon Network, and all that stuff.
Yeah. I have one more picture for you.
Yeah.
I would never do this, by the way. When I saw this, I was like, nope, this guy's nuts. No disrespect.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
what are you doing?
That's actually here in Austin at Voodoo Donut on 6th Street.
I saw you tag Voodoo. I know Voodoo. I've been to Voodoo. Why do they have snakes at Voodoo? What was going on that day?
This was my first more business trip where, since we were headquartered in Dallas during my time in Optic, we were doing a tour around Texas for the Houston Outlaws. So Overwatch League was a really big thing in 2018, 2019. Blizzard Activision pumped in like $100 million into this venture. You had Robert Kraft from the New England Patriots, you name it, big, money investors into this Overwatch League. So we had the Houston Outlaws, and we could not market in Dallas because there was the Dallas Fuel at the time that had basically like a zone regulation. So what we did is we went to Houston, San Antonio, and Austin as a little like tour with these players. We had like 900 people show up at each city on like a Thursday afternoon in April. Like, let me tell you that, you know how crazy that is? That 900 people showed up here at an Austin local like meet and greet to see esports players and guys that played Overwatch professionally, like on a Thursday. Like people got pulled, like kids got pulled out of school. They're signing jerseys. It was surreal. And I got to go because I wanted to meet the players, and they're like, "Hey, Thomas, just go because you're like around the same age as most of these guys." Like just so like they don't feel like isolated, and I got to connect with them, and it was like I got to go travel around and help set things up, be like a more managerial approach to it. So we went out that night because we wanted to bring out the guys. We check out 6th Street. I think it was like Friday night on 6th Street, and it's like if you're ever younger and you're post college or right out of college and you come to Austin 6th Street, it's like a experience. It's like a
yes.
What do you call it? It's like a it's not a like a it's like a path walkway. What is the analogy? Where it's like righteous path or like a experience that you have to have as a you know what I'm talking about?
I do. The audience is screaming at us right now, but not a rite of passage, but more of like a you have to do it.
Yeah.
If you're going to be in Austin and you're that age and that phase of life, like you can't not experience 6th Street.
Dirty Six, which is like legendary. Now, especially more with like Instagram Reels, and you just see all these crazy people. And it's true. It is like that. It's just packed street with a bunch of people that are on alcohol, consumption and everything between. It's a fun time. It's like genuinely fun. So we had a good time, and then we went to Voodoo Donuts because it's like the only thing that's open late. And some guy had a big snake, and he was hanging out. And I mean, I was drunk, and I was like, "Hey, dude."
You were drunk when you did that?
Yes!
Oh my God, that's even worse.
Yeah, and I think that's like the fearlessness of it. I was just like, he's like, "Hey, you want to hold him?" I'm like, "Sure." And then I held him, and someone snapped the photo. Maybe it was like Stephanie or Andrew, someone from back then that worked out. It's actually funny. Those two people actually work with a lot of high-profile content creators now, like with like Mr. Beast and Night Media. So if anyone from your audience ever wants to dig in, there's like a subgroup of people from my old company that now are wildly like involved with some of the biggest content creators within the U.S. But anyways, long story short, yeah, I just held it up and I was like, dude, this is sick. It was kind of like this. I don't know. He was just chilling, He just kind of did his own thing, and I was like, sure, I'll do it. I don't know. I've always been fearless when it comes to stuff like that. I went skydiving when I was 18.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, you've done it a few times.
Over
7 times.
I think
right?
I was 19 or 20, but it was pretty quick after high school. Yeah.
Hell yeah. What'd you think of it? What was your first first experience? Did you go with some friends?
Yes, it was me and my friend Gwen. Our birthdays are exactly a week apart.
Hell
And
yeah.
she saw this Groupon and she's like, if I get 2, would you go with me? Because I don't know if anyone else would. And I was like, fuck yeah, buy them. We're going.
Let's go.
And
Let's go.
it was, I'll be curious what you think about your first experience. It was a huge adrenaline rush, obviously. But then when you pulled the chute and you're floating back down to planet Earth, I had this just peace like almost overwhelm me in the best way possible, where it's almost like the wind was blowing off all my problems and my anxiety, and I just sort of saw planet Earth and I was like, you know what? Everything's gonna be all right. Did you feel that at all?
Kind of. So
Not at all, you crazy man.
No, I went with 3 of my buddies at the time. One of them was a pilot, so it was really funny. We actually flew from, because he would fly in those like little small planes. We flew from the airport to the place where they would take us in a different plane to fly up. So we were already in the sky in a little tiny, like what felt like a car. Imagine if you were in a car just like 14,000 feet up in the air. So I was like kind of like used to that, and it was really cool of an experience. But then I'm like, oh my God, we're going to be jumping out at this height too later on, like literally a few hours. And so I was excited for it. My parents still don't believe me that I went, even though I've like literally a certificate proving.
They don't believe you. Are they in denial? But they're like, man, he's holding snakes. He's jumping out of planes. He's moving across the country. We can't take it. We can't take it.
It's like the one thing that they like didn't believe, or maybe I don't know. Maybe it was like a joke they were saying between themselves, them and my brother. But I was when you're in the plane and you're like slowly having everyone leave the main cabin area. I was the last one. So I saw my friends going, whoop, whoop, whoop. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be me. And then my instructor, or the guy that was behind me, because you have to do tandem when you're first skydiving, he tricked me. He's like, hey, I'm gonna ask you a question right before we hop out, just to make sure that you're good to go. And as soon as we put over, he like said, the orange fish says what? And I go, huh? And then we're out. He like said something super obscure. And I just remember, I'm like, oh, I see what you did, you crafty bastard. You made me not look down or anything, and you had me look up to the side with something super obscure that I wouldn't like hold on to anything or anything like that. But I wasn't really that scared. I was just like, well, if the parachute fails, it fails. At least I lived a good life, you know?
So it's funny because my guy did something similar. When we were on the ground, he was like, all right, this is what you're going to do. Turn around. We're not on the plane. You were just in the airport. And he had me like back up into him sort of, and he put his hands on my shoulders. And he says, so when we get to the door, I'm going to lean you forward with my hands as like a 1 count. And then I'm going to pull you back. We're going to do it a second time. I'm going to pull you back. And then on our 3rd time forward, I'm going to push us both out of the plane. Yeah. And I said, that sounds awesome. Let's do it. We get to the door and we do the 1 count forward. And all of a sudden we're flying.
He didn't even wait till 2?
No.
That's so funny.
I think he knew he wasn't going to wait till 2, let alone 3. He just wanted me to be... I almost think he just wanted me to be relaxed. Like, okay, he knows, in quotes, he's not going out on this first count. And before he realizes it, we actually are out. We're flying, baby.
And did you go through a cloud?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. You just feel a little bit of moisture. No, but I agree. Like, you feel this weird sensation of just like freedom. You're just floating. You see the earth and everything. It wasn't that pretty because we had a bunch of cornfields and that's about it, and like a highway off to the side. And he's like, whatever you do, just don't aim for that highway. Let's aim for the field.
What state were you in?
Illinois.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's like on the suburban now.
It wasn't close enough to be able to see like Chicago or any of the Great Lakes or... Same thing in California. We went sort of close to San Francisco, which is near the bay. And so we were really hoping that we might see the ocean. And dude, it was all just agriculture, cornfields, gopher fields. It was just dirt, which you don't need a really scenic landing to make it a fun experience, but it sure would be cool to do it again, like over some mountains, over an ocean, over something.
Yeah. I wonder if it's because the winds near the ocean can be so unpredictable. You just decrease the amount of risk, you know?
Did you hear about the lady that died in Lodi, California in 2019? She's a solo jumper, and they allegedly warned her to not fly up, and she insisted. She's like, nope, I'm here, I'm paying my money, take me up. And they were like, it's really windy, you sure you want to go up? And she's like, take me up, allegedly. So they take her up, she jumps, so she's controlling everything, she's a solo jumper, and as she's on her way down, this huge gust of wind blew her right into the middle of a highway, and a semi hit her and died on impact. So for the tandems, I bring it up, like, if you're just going one time, you're probably going to be pretty safe because you're going with someone that's jumped over 1,000 times. And I've gone in those 7 times, it was either time like 3 or 4. They actually do turn you away if the wind's too strong. They were like, we'll give you a full refund. Come back any other day. We can't go up today. It's not safe. So you'll be fine if you go for a tandem jump. It'll be fun. You'll live. You won't break anything.
It'll be a good experience. And I think it's like, at some point you need to trust those experts, especially in those regards. Like, dude, when that news broke of the Titanic submarine exploding, I was just like, of course, yeah. Like, they're definitely not experts. Like, who does that? It's like, in some degree, you always have to trust the experts that have done it 1,000 times. It's like skiers. Like, if you're going your first time skiing, you don't want to go on a double black because it takes thousands of reps, etc., stuff like that, or anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
it's sort of just a quick fun aside, since we're talking about fun stuff. When, where, and why did you pick up surfing as a new hobby?
Because it was like the next board sport that I had not conquered. So skateboarding, I was good enough where I could ride around, go up a half pipe, all that fun stuff, do a kickflip, right? Not anymore. It's been a hot minute since I've done a kickflip, but if I get back into it, I could probably do it again. Snowboarding was like secondhand. I think I was doing it since I was like 6 years old. Still do it almost every single winter that I can. I did longboarding. I did is it mountain boarding too? Where you basically go down like a gravel hill, or where usually you take like mountain bikes and you do like a big board. It's got these big wheels, really fun. And I did like pennyboarding, and then I did like what do you call it? Wake surf? That's not. I did wakeboarding in Poland and / Europe, which was really fun. And I did skimboarding. So it's like literally every single boarding thing that's like popular or trendy that you can do, except for surfing. And I even did. It was way back. It's on my personal Facebook. I did flow riding, which is the surf simulator thing that you see sometimes on cruises or some like Six Flags and some locations, some water parks. They'll have it. It's like a simulated surf on a big tarp. And I used to be an instructor for that, and I loved it. It was super fun. You could basically it's simulated like you were surfing on a big wave, but you had a smaller board and everything. I loved it. And so I did all of that before I ever surfed. And now my addiction is whenever I go onto the Pacific, I go surfing. So I was in San Diego, did some surfing. I was in Hawaii in December, did some surfing. It's just like, it's so fun and rewarding. And we went to this big cove that hones, oh my God, I'm blanking on the name. It's like one of the biggest surf competitions, is maybe called the Eddies. I might be misremembering it. Huge surf competition that happens the week before. And these huge mountain waves on the north side of Hawaii. And I'm talking about, like, these are like 30-foot waves. And I was like, I mean, I can't do that. No. I stick to the 5, 4, 3-foot waves. That's my jam right now. Maybe I can make myself work up to 10, maybe in the future. But, like, there's something just magically powerful about surfing that connects you to the ocean. That's a very scary place for a lot of people, but also is very beautiful. And it just shows you, like, you can do it. And I don't know. I just love it. It's just such a unique feeling compared to every other boarding sport that I've done before that I love it. So
you didn't have any apprehension. I'm one of those people where the ocean makes me uncomfortable.
Oh no.
Because it's like a whole nother world, right? And we're now in a world where we do not thrive. We can't breathe. We can swim, but not as good as a dolphin, a fish, a shark, you name the breed. Like, they're all better swimmers than us. For you, there is just no fear?
There's a lot of fear. You just kind of have to, like, not really think about it.
Is it because it's more important for you to experience surfing than to let your fear hold you back from doing something that could be awesome?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, it's like, you got to focus on the positives of it. Like, last time I was in surfing, not recently in San Diego, but we were surfing. I had an instructor, which always helps. Just even though I've done it enough where I can do everything on my own, when you have an instructor, they just know the area, so they can help you land the better waves, improve small things. that can be like a catalyst for you just improving overall. So we're going by and we're sitting on our boards waiting for the wave. You see a sea lion just like floating up, bobbing its head, like no farther than that couch is. I don't know, what is that, like less than 20 feet away from us right there?
Probably, yeah, 10 maybe even.
Right? Just bobbing its head. And he's like, yeah, we're in the water, we're fine. Those guys are harmless in the water. But if you're approaching a male sea lion on land, they'll become like more threatened and are actually not dangerous, but like you probably don't want to approach it. But because we're in the water, they feel safe. They know that you could literally bump into him and he probably wouldn't do anything to you. And then we saw a pelican, like literally no farther than like 50 feet away, swoop in, scoop up a fish, and just sit there, and you're just like, and then later on, super far in the distance, you see some dolphins, and you're just like, what the hell? And then like, you see like later on like a sea turtle just randomly floating up, and you're like, whoa, like that, like you start embracing everything that's positive when you hit a wave, and you're like, dude, you hit a 4-foot wave, and you just feel surreal, and you crash down, water hits you. He's like, focus on all the positives. Now, am I always scared that I will fall into a jellyfish, stingray, or a shark will swim by? Yeah, that sits in the back of my head. But I think I'll try to always focus on the positives of that experience and the social aspect of surfing more than anything else, always.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, you should try it. Have you done it?
No.
Do it. Do it.
do it.
Or I have an alternative for you. Out in Waco, this is like a 25-minute drive, like 2-3 hour drive from here. There's a surf simulator called Surf Waco. It's a little pricey, probably like I think like $200 or $180. You can surf for an hour. They have an artificial wave simulator out there that you can go and surf and give it a shot.
This place.
So if you're ever in the mood in Texas and you don't, because Texas beaches get a bad rep, right? Go to Surf Waco. It's really cool. A little pricier, but if you're in Dallas, pretty easy drive. Austin, a little out of the way, but still cool. So always recommend it for those people trying to get that surf itch without the sharks, jellyfish, stingrays, or anything in between that can, take a bite out of you.
Yeah. I do like, I know this is not surfing, but I do like going out to Barton Springs and swimming in there.
Yeah.
First thing in the morning. So my goal is to be out there between like 6:30 and 6:45 at the latest, get a couple laps in, hang out there for like 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and then come back home. And that's been something I've only been doing for about 2 months, and I just love starting off my day with it. Just jump in the water and swim a little bit,
Yeah, dude. I feel like there's a really big human instinct on just water for some reason. We get a lot of like, got to be some ancestral like callback or something that really drives us to water, other than the fact that we need water to live, right?
Yeah.
But do you ever feel just calmer around a river, a lake, a stream? Like you just feel so much more relaxed. By the way, if you ever have a mint toothpick around like a scenic thing or Barton Springs, it hits different. And then my favorite thing, self-plugs, #ad here. As soon as you're done with that thing, you find a little patch of like a mulch, some plants, toss that in. We're 100% biodegradable for the wood. Zero impact on plants or the environment.
I didn't even think about that.
Which is great. So you can leave. I always encourage you want to bring your packaging with you, recycle it, tube, metal tin, reuse it for whatever you want. Or toothpicks, 100% biodegradable. Just be responsible where you place it, because you don't want to put it on like a path where someone's walking with sandals, could step on it, or something like that. But other than that, you're chilling. Better than gum in terms of biodegradability.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I would say I knew that part before you even said it, but good pitch. We are going to go into wrap-up mode, and before we do, you were kind enough to give me a couple of topics that you get really fired up about.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for everything you've talked about so far. I've had so much fun sitting here sucking on your product and just shooting the shit with you. This has been so relaxed and fun, and hopefully it's been the same for you. You had mentioned that you could talk about creative branding, from content creation in the modern day to the rise of low effort brands that win personality. One that caught my attention because I don't know what you meant by it, but I was like, maybe I do, but I don't. Short form fatigue and the return of long form. Any of these topics that you'd just like to riff on for a few minutes?
Dude, let's talk about short form versus long form, mostly because we're doing a long form podcast.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? So, I mean, I feel like the big topic that I think a lot of people are in there's the aspect of the audience, the consumer, that has been like, now we've been so addicted to short form content because the dopamine rush of content that you get. You can swipe up, right? TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. I mean, LinkedIn video shorts now, Snapchat video, like it's everywhere where you're getting these dopamine little rushes of an algorithm that learns what you like, what you will consume the most about, and what gives you the biggest energy, like dump. I'm talking about like you're like, oh, that's cool, or like you're engaged with it. Or my favorite one is the one that you want to share with your friends. This is actually a little insight on the Instagram algorithm. If you really likes, comments are not as impactful as shares. If your piece of content is being shared to your friends and that it creates like a network web effect, you're telling Instagram this is a good piece of content that you're willing to put your stamp your name on it and say, hey, you should check this out, rather than sending a link or something like that. So to all my fellow marketers, if you can create an engaging piece of content that's like shareable, like people want to share. My favorite one is like tag a friend that is like a silly goose, and you send it to them, right? That one, that reel, even if it comes from an account that has like 3,000 followers, can get like 1 million plus views. So like what has happened is culturally we've had a big push. A lot of these algorithms and a lot of these platforms have pushed people to short form content, and then everyone says, "Oh, people want to watch shorter content, etc." Everything has to be super quick. But then we see it with the most recent, like for example, presidential elections or just anything. You see like guys like Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, these podcasts, right, that go on for hours on end, are more popular than ever, ever in terms of people want meaningful long form conversations with people that they care about and want to listen to. People like the age of 5 minute short videos from like news companies, even TV like Shark Tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
People that age is basically over. You're either going towards a short form content where you're getting the introduction or interest piece, or you're getting the entire thing and you're watching it start to finish. And where I mean short term fatigue is, I think people themselves are like that newish freshness of like short form being like the key of everything consumption is like people are super hype fixated, like everything needs to be a reel, everything needs to be like this, or like from the marketing branding perspective of like same thing with content creators, like, oh, you need to be pumping out like short form hook content, hyper fixating on the 2 seconds whatever hook, what is the buzzword that you're using to get someone anchored in. It's like, so people are so obsessed with that, people forget that some of the most impactful, meaningful content that we ever consume are the long documentaries, are the long conversations. It's the long interviews that are meaningful between people, and I think that's where we're seeing that kind of rebound back, especially when it comes to people that, like for example, like I know it's funny, I told you I didn't want to talk about politics, but like you see it where a lot of politicians now, they're coming on the podcast and they're having longer conversations.
I definitely noticed that. I was trying to remember. I was like in, where are we, 2025? In 2020, I was like, were they doing this when all the podcasts were going Zoom? Because everyone did it. I saw Trump appear on a few.
Mm-hmm.
I saw, sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but
you're
no,
good.
I definitely noticed that. And I was like, this is nuts that all these people that you typically are just being interviewed by the news now are going on to Rogan and This Past Weekend and Diary of a CEO and all these
Yeah.
other platforms. This is wild.
Yeah, and actually, my favorite long form. I got to give a shout out to the Acquired podcast. One of my favorite like long like business podcasts that I like to listen to. They do these deep dives about. Highly recommend always checking out the Costco episode and then their interview with. Oh my gosh, I think it's Andrew Schultz. No, the guy that founded Starbucks. Such a fascinating story of a business and the fascination of Starbucks as a brand and how it came and gone and where it's going in today's modern age. It was around the time where the former CEO of Chipotle transferred over to Starbucks. So that they did that interview, I think it was like a few days or like a week after that happened, with the founder of Starbucks, or one of the key guy. I'm blanking on his name and feel really embarrassed to forget it. But like, and you saw with like for example Trump and all these guys going on these long form podcasts. I mean, you can even now see Bernie Sanders doing it like a circuit, which not to dive into politics, but just like it's like when people can hear you talking and you're talking to a person, you're not talking to someone that's trying to get that gotcha moment, that like 5 minute, 3 second thing that they can put like a big TV like clip out of. Like you just start to hear that person as a person, not for what they like represent, like on like social media, and you can hear them talk through things, and that's when you can really make your opinion on someone, and you can see someone's are they saying things, or do they mean things? Because it's really hard in a long form conversation to have a, you know, like, if you trip up, it's pretty obvious because you're like, wait a second, you were talking about this and this policy here, but then you voted for this. But then sometimes it allows people to explain themselves, where it's like it's hard to explain something within like 3 minutes that's very complicated, that affects millions of Americans, affects foreign policy within 3 minutes. But if you're given 30 minutes, suddenly that whole conversation changes. You can do an initial setup. You can talk about where are the pros and the cons, where are both sides coming from, where are the possible effects of it. For example, like, you know, interpersonally between like a city versus a manufacturing company, right, versus another company, another country, right, like the tariffs between the U.S. and Canada, right, that can just suddenly that affects travel between like Vancouver and Seattle, Toronto, Detroit, New York, and Montreal, right? And those pathways, like those economies, like suddenly you're like, whoa, there's so much more to it, right? And how Canada like exports so much lumber to the U.S., we export so much oil to Canada now, right? It's just like you're not thinking about those things in the 5-second, even 30-second short where you hear, yeah, we got this so tariff, right? You know, and when you can make up an opinion, but when you hear like this long form conversation, you can educate yourself more on what you choose and how you perceive things. And sometimes even when you might not agree with someone politically, you hear them talk. I remember I listened to Thomas Massey was on Theo Vaughn's podcast recently. Now, I don't really agree with a lot of things that Thomas Massey says or his beliefs, but I heard him talking about the people that he represents. And I'm like, okay, this is where he's coming from, and this is what he stands for, and this is what is important to him. And suddenly I see, like, it just you open yourself up, and you don't feel like the echo chamber nonstop, because you're just hearing the same few words over and over. And that's what I mean with short form fatigue, is people are just fatigued by just bombardment of stuff. And small plug here. If you're chewing on a toothpick and you just kind of can relax on a podcast and just like let everything go in, you can just like embrace things that you may not agree with, or just learn something new. Again, tying it back to learning something that you might not expect. So yeah, are there any long form podcasts or anything like that that you enjoy? I know you were talking about Shark Tank earlier that you like to listen to when you're just like doing chores and stuff like that.
My current one, that's long form, is Diary of a CEO.
Oh, nice.
I would say his shortest ones are like 80 minutes. They average about 2 hours, and some of them go to as many as 3. And if I'm taking the dog for a hike, if I got to drive to Dallas, if I got an hour and a half of emails to write, that is my favorite thing, even more than Shark Tank to have on.
Hell yeah.
Shark Tank's more of when I'm relaxing, I'm vacuuming, I'm doing dishes, I'm cooking. But if I'm sort of half working, but I want something other than music on in the background, Diary of a CEO is my go-to. And it's funny because I've had a couple of these random people, who knows even if they're even humans, who have jumped onto the main videos and said like, you clearly don't know what you're doing. You should shorten all of these to 30 minutes, 45 tops. And I'm just like, you ever heard of, I don't say this, I just read the comment and chuckle. And in my head, I'm like, has this person ever heard of Joe Rogan, Modern Wisdom, Diary of a CEO, Call Her Daddy, all of these shows this past weekend that are doing episodes just as long of mine, if not longer, and people are consuming them by the millions.
I know.
So you come to me and tell me that I should be capping my podcast at 45 minutes, and if I don't, I'm fucked? You're wrong. Sorry.
No, you're right. It's so funny because then you look at the person. My favorite. It's the most gratifying thing ever when you see that comment and then you go to their profile and they have never created anything. And it's the most fulfilling thing. Is like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just seeing something. You're just angry and you just choose to take it out on my post. You don't create anything. You don't contribute anything. You don't know any. Like, it's like one of those things. Everyone wants to say that they know stuff until they actually, prove to do it. That's why I always enjoy talking with creators, because it's so insightful, or like individuals like yourself, right, that are doing things. It's like you can have a conversation and then you know that they are going through those steps and motions of doing things, and they're not just talking out of their ass or just making claims. It's like they're doing it, and that's what's the fun part about this stuff, and it gets me excited, and clearly gets you excited to talk about it too.
Heck yeah, it does.
Full circle.
I have two more questions for you if we
fire away.
can.
Yeah.
First one is that I'm really impressed by just seem to have a really wide knowledge, but it's not surface level either. You know what you're talking about. It's not, you have a really just cool mind that seems to retain things and you articulate them back so well. So my question is there anything that you're not paying attention to that you're kicking yourself and you're like, man, I need to be a little bit more focused on this?
Whoa. What do I need to be more focused on? I think it's just. Strangely enough, I know we talked about being anti AI. I just know AI is gonna, and everyone. There's probably some people rolling their eyes like, of course AI. Like it's such an interesting topic, more so just because when people say follow the money when businesses are investing and stuff, right? There's got to be some root to it always. Where are people investing more money? Infrastructure, communications, right? And now that whole thing has been AI, right? And there's got to be some justification to it. It wasn't just like a fad like blockchain was like I think a few years ago. I want to say. I mean, it's still relevant. Crypto, right? Probably should be paying attention a little bit more to crypto. I think that's like the one thing that's fascinating me. Not for the actual financial stuff. It's just the sense of community and alliances and like people planting themselves attaching themselves to a coin like a brand that champion it, something like a sports team. That's just fascinating. I've always been fascinated by two things: why people are obsessed with something. There are two things that I recently overcame, or like not overcame, but I was like very curious. Why are people obsessed with so and so? And that's led me down two rabbit holes. One was racing and motorsports. I got into F1. Now I'm obsessed with it. I totally get it. Because before then, you're like, dude, people are going around in a circle driving a fast car. What's the cool part about that? That seems so boring as a viewer, right? You're like, they're going to turn left. They're going to turn left. They're going to turn left. And you're like, there's these intricate stories, brands, people. There's like drama. And you're like, whoa, this is a soap opera on wheels. And then, I've grew up in Chicago, and football is a big sport in Chicago. Chicago Bears, legacy team, well known, one of the oldest teams actually too, right? And part of American culture is football. And I up until 3 years ago, I just could care less about it. I was just like, it happens around me. I'm not interested in it. And then it was the Netflix series Quarterback that got me, and I was like, oh, I'll put it on and see if just kill some time, listen to it, take it like more like a podcast. And I'm like, wait, whoa, this guy Patrick Mahomes is kind of interesting. Kirk Cousins, this guy's kind of interesting. Let me do some more. And then my buddy's like, hey, you want to join a fantasy thing? I had no idea what I was doing, right? And suddenly I'm learning players, I'm learning all these things, and suddenly I'm understanding the cultural phenomenon of football, why people care. And I'm driving up here on the way here. I'm listening to this guy from That's Good Sports, a awesome YouTuber from Colorado. I was like super passionate about the Broncos and everything like that, and he's just talking about the updates about the NFL. Now I'm like consuming it, and I think my obsession with learning about why people are obsessed with something is so like awesome. So I think the next thing I would love to do, but it's always like a little like controversial, is crypto, because there's so there's like millions, billions of dollars moving around this like ecosystem that people are fanatics about. You hear about scams, you hear about rug pulls, you hear about blockchain this, Ethereum that, Bitcoin that, and you're like, what the fuck is happening here? And I really want to learn it, but I don't know if I have the time when I have a bunch of other things to handle. Maybe it's just one of those things I just always skirt on the outskirts of, you know?
Yeah.
What about yourself? Was there anything you're dying to learn about?
Ooh. Getting posed with my own question. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think part of it could be I'm just so satisfied with learning about other people.
Yeah.
That's
not a bad thing.
That's what I'm learning about.
There you go. I think it's always interesting. Like, I think people go through phases of interest. Like, you get your fix from something, kind of like settles down, and then you're like, all right, on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So, nice, dude.
I just I had a trauma researcher on about a month ago, and he had me read a book on trauma before he came on to help me prep for the interview. And so I enjoyed the book so much, I picked up a second one
Nice.
that is not so much on trauma as it is learning to understand all the different parts of yourself. And so I guess the rabbit hole I'm going right now is sort of a psychology one. because the trauma just opened. I didn't realize how much I'd become obsessed with the topic. And I think part of it is because as I was reading the book, The Body Keeps the Score, I sort of saw myself in some of the pages, and I was like, ooh, I ended up understanding David better, and I wasn't expecting this.
There you go. What's the book called?
The first one is called The Body Keeps the Score, and the one I just got is called No Bad Parts.
Gotcha. The Body Keeps the Score. I'll make sure to write that down. I'll
It's
check
a
it out.
page turner. If
Is
you
it a page
picked it up, you would finish it quick, I bet.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think like again, it's like people are infatuated by digital content, but yet we come back to books. Like the what I'm fascinated. That's another thing. It's all those Fourth Wing books recently coming out that like girls are obsessed with. Was it the Thorn Roses? I'm blanking. My girlfriend's gonna be kicking me later on. She's like, I read all these in front of you. We're around you. Why are you not remembering the titles? She's told me about like all these stories. It's like, and it's like. You see this trend of like every few years, like you had the Hunger Games books, you had the Twilight series, now you have this series, you had the Percy Jackson series, and then you had like Harry Potter. It's like, God, like this is what frustrates me about AI, because there's something so awesome about creativity of humans, and what we can do is we can put our ideas down on paper, and people are infatuated with it, and like it can be a cultural phenomenon. And I'm like. So I guess I'll take that back about crypto. I want to dive into these books and understand why are people obsessed with these books, and what is the psyche, the community, and all that stuff behind that.
I wonder if part of it is just that we are all obsessed with storytelling, and I think that's why all these long form podcasts do so good, is because we're essentially getting together and telling stories, in some of them, not all of them, and we need that, like that. Going back to what you were saying an hour and a half ago about these toothpicks, that we've been doing this since, this is one of the oldest technologies we have, and storytelling is one of the oldest forms of communication we have. So then this book with this great story gets released, and people have been doing so much short form content that they read the first chapter and it's like nothing that they've consumed for 6 months, and they're just like, whoa, this vampire's hooking up with this human and it's gonna cause some strife with the werewolves. Shut the fuck up.
Right?
I'm reading this.
You're in and you're hooked and you're diving into this entire thing, and then lo and behold, you got Robert Pattinson playing the main lead, and you're like, wait a second, I recognize him. All that stuff. It's so interesting how that all comes together, and media fatigue is weird sometimes to a degree. So,
it is.
Nice.
Thomas, this has been so much fun.
Nice, thank you.
You're welcome. Before I wrap things up with the last question, is there anything else you're dying to talk about today, or do you feel like we covered everything pretty good for round one?
No, honestly, for round one, I feel like we covered a lot of things overall. I think I had some questions for you, but I think that we'll save that for next time. More so just to get your perspective on some stuff. I think if we have the time, it's mostly because I think this is applicable to so many things, to so many people. Sorry. Right now, given there's like a lot of job layoffs and overall people dealing with AI the new headline is AI will replace XYZ people, right? And you're coming from the recruiter space / the people space, I'll call it, right? Where do you think everything is going when it comes to jobs? Are we going to see another like farm to technology revolution, or is this something that we haven't experienced yet? Like, where is your mindset in that kind of realm? It might be boring. I know you don't want to talk about it because it's your job though. But I think a lot of people that are either looking for a new job, entering the job market, or just kind of curious about. I'm just kind of curious about yourself, because where your headspace is in that, what you think is going. I'm always just interested in it because it's not a really talked about sector in detail, other than you should be applying for jobs, improve your resume, have a portfolio.
I thank you for that question. I don't know if you'll like this answer or not, but I could spit out like 4 or 5 quick different perspectives.
Yeah.
First one is that when computers came, accountants probably thought they were going to get replaced, and accountants are still working 80 hours a week during tax season. Then the internet came, and accountants probably thought they were going to be replaced, and they're still working 80 hours a week during tax season. So with artificial intelligence, it's another change, and it might shift how accountants do their work, or how copywriters do their work, or how anyone might be doing their work. But I think that the biggest thing that I would personally be focused on is if I am forced to adapt. And so if I am part of a layoff, and it could specifically be due to AI or any other thing, maybe I was part of a merger, the company that bought my company decided to lay off this XYZ team for whatever reason, I would say that the first thing you need to do is figure out how are you going to adapt to that change and learn to embrace it as quickly as possible if you got let go because of the nature of your job changed. I think that one basic fundamental thing that really is frustrating on my end right now, that a lot of job hoppers are or not job hoppers, people searching for jobs are being incredibly lazy. So we post a job for my company, and we get 600 applicants, and I will read every single one of those 600 resumes, and probably 50% of them I just toss out the window, because if this is how you're gonna represent the way that you do things, not even checking things like all your fonts are in alignment, it has grammar errors, it just looks like shit in general because you didn't even plug it in to a Microsoft Word template, you are getting yourself kicked out of the process because you didn't put 30 minutes of work into representing yourself through this piece of paper. So I think that if if you're putting some effort into it and then going even above and beyond, and maybe you see that David O'Clair posted this job on LinkedIn, why are you not going to David O'Clair's LinkedIn profile and connecting with him and say, hey, I saw that you posted a job for an editor on David's Saturday Night Sitback. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Samantha. I tuned into your podcast with Thomas, and it was awesome. And I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know I applied. I for sure am going to go look at Samantha's resume because she took 5 seconds to do something that nobody else is doing. It blows my mind that my name is visible over all of this, and we have 600 people apply, and not a single person thought it would be a good idea to use a networking platform to connect with the person that posted the job.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a tough market, and there's a lot of people looking, and it hurts my heart to see that one job has 600 applicants, because that's 600 families that all need to pay rent and put food on the table. But at the same time, why are you expecting something when you're not putting anything into it except for you submitting a shitty resume?
Yeah, my advice to all marketers, people in the creative space is like, if you're applying with just your resume, you are holding yourself back. Have a mini portfolio, even if it's just like on Google Slides of like, here's the 3 things that I did that are cool visually, immediately puts you in front, way in a better position than someone that's just got like a bunch of text on a little like resume thing that's like, here's what I did, all that stuff. No, I like it. I like it. I think you were very passionate about it. It's like, here's what people are doing wrong. Take the effort, especially if it's your career. You're in control of it. Why not put a little bit more effort into it, especially if you're not seeing the results?
I will say on a side tangent, about 2 years ago, I got to fill one marketing position, and it was super fun because I'm so used to sort of seeing the same resume come through, and you would have been proud of this group of marketers applying to this job because they were submitting some wild resumes where they were coming through with these fonts and graphics and the portfolios are attached, and I just was not used to that. And it was really cool to sort of scan through the resumes and see something much more creative than hiring for, a director or another accountant, or so many of those resumes are pretty much just identical. Yeah. But the marketing people, they really put themselves out there, and it was really fun to work with them and see their creativity. And then I jump on a Zoom call with them, and they'd be like, oh, I can't wait to do a screen share with you and show you some stuff I already worked on. I'd be like, yeah, let's fucking go, dude.
Yeah, you just
this
get
is great.
More energy. You get to see someone's personality really shine through those, which sucks always whenever now it's through Zoom. Even phone calls. I think my tier for interviews is always in person if possible, if it's like a local. Zoom second, and then third over phone, because even through a phone call, you can't see my facial expressions, you can't see my enthusiasm, I can't screen share. I have to say, yeah, if you look at page 6 on my portfolio, you can see something really cool, and I'm like, oh, this, it sucks, especially since everything's so much visually. But I know people that have gotten really cool, what people consider boring jobs, but being a little bit more creative with their resumes or how they apply. I remember there was an accountant that I heard a story on. He's like, oh, I saved my company $45,000 because we switched from this one credit card to another credit card that enabled us to get something like cashback reward system. And he made it in a little like like presentation, like similar to Google Slides, like almost like a little like portfolio piece, and he like made it interesting to look at boring data points, and he had like $45,000 saved in 2025 for this company, and he's like, here's how I did it, and then he's like, yeah, I got the job because for this app company. He's like, I saw the guy, the CEO that was recruiting, he just saw the big number, and he's like, wait a second, I would have not seen this number in the tons of little lines in your resume, but because I saw it in a big green bubble that was on the side, and I learned that you had a cat, which I have a cat, like I was immediately way more interested in your resume and everything, and I remembered you, and I chose to reach out to you. You know, it's like you can get creative with it as long as it comes up professional. You don't want to like overblow it where you're mindlessly chucking stuff on it, but even boring jobs you can have an interesting hook to make it stand out a little bit, you know?
Yeah, no, you for sure can. My name on my resume for like 6 or 7 years has been David, and then in quotes, Daredevil Eau Claire. And people are like,
I saw that on LinkedIn.
Is that your legal middle name? And I'm like, no, but almost every job I've applied to, I've at least got an interview for, because people are like, what the fuck is this?
What is it? Are you a fan of Daredevil or just...
Yeah. So I read the book. So the pitch is, I've jumped out of 7 perfectly good airplanes. I read the book Daredevil Psychology and found out that me and Matt Murdock are more in common than I thought we could be. And just like Matt tries to get his clients the verdicts they want, I try to get my candidates the jobs they want.
There you go. And we should end it on that.
We should end it on that. All right, I just have one. Do we have time? Yeah, we got time. And this will be quick. To the audience, real quick before I give Thomas his last question, do me a favor. If you stuck around with us today, I'm assuming that meant you enjoyed the interview or you just had nothing better to do. But either way, do me a favor. If you're listening on Spotify, hit that follow button. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, also hit the follow button. If you watch today on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. And if you do this small favor for me, which takes a couple seconds of your time and none of your money, my commitment will be to keep finding guests like Thomas for you to light your internal fire every Saturday night. So do me that small favor. While Thomas asks this last question, I don't know what the question is going to be. You're going to pull one from this box.
Ooh, let me get around one from like the middle.
And then read it out loud for us if you don't mind.
What is your proudest moment? From Harley Finkelstein. Proudest moment. I don't think I have had my proudest moment yet. Is a cop-out answer.
I was going to say, you're cheating. Of course, I didn't give you any rules, so technically you're not cheating.
I don't think so. And I don't think I'll know what my proudest moment is until I've lived my entire life. Is like probably my best answer to you. I'll have it, but I don't think I'll know it until probably a little bit afterwards. But so far, I think my proudest moment is when I know that the people around me can rely on me. And I think that it's not merely a moment; it's just this proudest thing where I know that in a pinch, when someone needs someone reliable or someone that they can like lean on for something, that I'll be always there for them. And I think it'll be a microcosm of a bunch of small events of like I was there for this person and this person, and stuff like that. So that's like my proudest moment. Cop out plus a little tangent.
Thomas, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for everything that you answered. This was super fun. To the audience, stay healthy, stay happy, and we'll see you guys next Saturday night. Bye, everyone.